The current era of UNC basketball under Hubert Davis has felt bipolar to say the least. Without a doubt, it's been one of the most tumultuous stretches in the Tar Heels' modern era. You may call it bipolar or volatile, because that's exactly what's happened in Chapel Hill since Davis took over. The highs are as high as you can get, yet the lows are worthy of losing your job as the Chapel Hill head coach. The pendulum swings. One year you're in the national championship, the next you decline an NIT invite. Let's take a look at the Hubert Davis era. 4 days after Roy Williams' retirement, the Tar Heels announced assistant Hubert Davis as the next head coach on April 5th, 2021. Davis was a former player under Dean Smith and later an assistant under Roy Williams. Being a part of the Carolina family meant there were only two real candidates, Hubert Davis and Wes Miller. It made sense to appoint Davis, and despite my love for Wes Miller after attending his basketball camps at UNCG growing up, there was only really one true choice. Davis fit the culture and ultimately continued the Carolina way. In his first season, things couldn't have been more unprecedented. The Tar Heels finished 29-10, going 15-5 in the ACC. The final 6 weeks of that season were nothing short of a dream. In Coach K's final game at Cameron Indoor, the Tar Heels won by 13. Then they made the NCAA tournament as an 8 seed and went on an absolute tear. They beat Marquette by 32, then the number 1 seed Baylor in overtime. In the Sweet 16, they beat UCLA, which set up an Elite 8 matchup with 15 seed St. Peter's. UNC won 69-49, setting up the Tobacco Road rivalry's first ever Final Four meeting. In the Final Four game of a lifetime, Hubert Davis's Tar Heels defeated Duke, sending Coach K into retirement. With heroics from Caleb Love and Brady Manick, UNC claimed a national championship berth and forever bragging rights over Duke. By halftime of the national championship, it looked like the dream debut season for Hubert Davis was winding down in poetic fashion. UNC led Kansas 40-25, 20 minutes away from the 7th national championship in school history. What followed was one of the worst championship collapses you will ever see. A 15-point lead gone. Kansas wins 72-69, something that remains a stain on the legacy of Hubert Davis. Momentum was still high in Chapel Hill despite the loss. Davis returned all starters except Brady Manick, and the media had no choice but to put UNC as the preseason number 1. The momentum was so off the charts that Davis and the returning core recreated Dean Smith's iconic Sports Illustrated cover from 1981. What followed in the 2022-23 season was nothing short of an embarrassment. The preseason number 1 failed to make the NCAA tournament, finishing 20-13 and 7th in the ACC. To add insult to injury, John Shire's Blue Devils swept UNC. Without an ACC tournament run, the NIT was calling, but instead of accepting it, Davis chose to move forward, a jarring decision to say the least. To further the pendulum swing, the Tar Heels shook things up going into the 2023-24 season. Armando Bacot, RJ Davis, and Leaky Black returned, along with portal additions like Harrison Ingram from Stanford and Cormac Ryan, a grad transfer from Notre Dame. Meanwhile, Caleb Love had a falling out with the team and transferred to Arizona. This team caught fire, finishing 29-8 with an ACC regular season title, and Hubert Davis won ACC Coach of the Year. UNC swept Duke and advanced to the ACC tournament final, where they lost to a red-hot NC State. Despite this, they still earned a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. They made the Sweet 16, played Alabama, and then Jalen Withers blew the game, sealing the win for the Crimson Tide. Despite the brutal end, it was another glimpse into the Carolina way that Davis was hired to uphold. Now, a season beginning with an even year means that Hubert Davis won't be there to compete. The backbone of Roy Williams' players was essentially gone, leaving RJ Davis as the spine. Bacot and Black had graduated, Harrison Ingram was drafted, but the roster construction for 2024-25 felt odd. Despite losing bigs, UNC loaded up on guards. 5-star freshman Ian Jackson, 5-star wing Drake Powell, and returning was Elliot Cadeau and Seth Trimble, who all crowded the backcourt. The season ended with a 23-14 record, including 3 losses to Duke and a tournament berth that, keeping it real, likely happened because AD Bubba Cunningham sat on the selection committee. In the first round, UNC lost to Ole Miss. That first season bought Hubert Davis about a half-decade of employment, but years like this reminded fans that he isn't untouchable. So in the offseason, UNC reportedly spent around $14 million constructing this current roster. With 5-star freshman Caleb Wilson coming in, there needed to be supplemental talent. Elliot Cadeau transferred to Michigan, Ian Jackson transferred to St. John's, Vin Allen Lubin transferred to NC State. This was supposed to be Hubert's first fully his guys roster. No RJ Davis, no Armando Bacot, no Roy Williams backbone. With RJ graduating and Drake Powell heading to the NBA, UNC had to move quickly. Arizona transfer center Henry Vissar joined the front court. Alabama transfer Jaron Stevenson returned home to Chapel Hill, and they added 4-star guard Derek Dixon, Colorado State transfer Kyan Evans, and international wing Luka Bogovic from Montenegro. On paper, there's real talent. So far, the team has major blue blood wins against Kentucky and Kansas, plus an incredible last-second win from Seth Trimble, hitting a 3-pointer to defeat Duke in the Dean Dome. Yet the Tar Heels also have horrid losses, leaving them 6th in the ACC with an overall record of 20-6, 5 of those already being from ACC play. The worst came against NC State, an 82-58 loss, the worst in that rivalry since since 1962. Now, UNC was without Caleb Wilson and Henry Visar, and Wilson also broke his hand in the Miami game, making the outlook for the end of the season very bleak. Still, losing by 24 while shooting 5 for 33 from 3 is indefensible. The offense was pure iso ball into a low percentage shot almost every possession. On the flip side of the court happened to be a well-rounded Wolfpack team, and one with a 6'9" power forward who the Tar Heels could have used. His name? Vin Allen Lubin, the Tar Heel transfer who put up 12 points on his former team. 684 miles away, Purdue lost to the hands of Michigan's point guard Elliot Cadeau, another UNC transfer who put up 17 points, 4 rebounds, and 7 assists. Two players the Tar Heels could have used to aid their offensive woes, instead transferring away as Hubert Davis couldn't get the most of them. While both players didn't live up to expectations at Chapel Hill, it begs to question development. Hubert Davis can recruit talent, that's obvious, but what's the benefit of recruiting well if players don't develop or stick around? Early Tuesday afternoon, Dylan Mingo, a 5-star point guard and a top 10 player in the class, committed to UNC, a massive commitment. In 2025, Wilson and Dixon committed. In 2024, 5-star guards Drake Powell and Ian Jackson chose UNC. There is no doubt the brand has pull, but the question is, what happens after they arrive? Another hindrance of the Davis regime has been the inability to consistently win big games, particularly away from home. His quad 1 record sits at 19-38, down years of 1-9 and 1-12 against top competition, roughly a 33% win rate against elite teams. For UNC, that's not the Carolina way. You can't build consistency when players leave after a year for lateral transfers. The roster identity keeps shifting. Last year there were too many guards. This year, well, there's no creators. This inconsistency is relatively unprecedented. Roy Williams missed the tournament once in 18 years. Hubert Davis missed it the season after being a half away from a national championship. That's what I mean by the volatility of this era. So the question UNC fans must grapple with is simple. He was the right hire in 2021, but who replaces him if he's not the long-term answer? Hiring strictly from the Carolina family is outdated. Wes Miller hasn't proven to be that guy at Cincinnati. Marcus Page is a legend, but he's a 32-year-old assistant coach. So what's the move? Fire Hubert Davis and get who? Or drop the Carolina family requirement entirely and go get the best coach available, someone who can build long-term consistency. Hubert Davis has delivered moments expected of a UNC coach. He's also had lows that fall into the Matt Doherty tier. That first season bought him half a decade of employment, but seasons like 2022-23 and 24-25 remind fans that he's not untouchable. Until consistency is maintained year to year, this era will be incredibly difficult to evaluate. Personally, I think it's the best to move on after the NCAA tournament, but logistically the Tar Heels won't do this. Hubert is a great man, but he is a mediocre coach. So if you're Bubba Cunningham or the next AD, what would you do? I'm Cobalt Productions. Thank you for watching.